the issue of road pricing, and you mentioned it's a very wide-ranging debate and you're listening to opinions and arguments from all sides. I've had a lot of concern from motorists, particularly motorists in outer London. You're considering new technology that might be able to monitor vehicles in real time, and there's a lot of concern that that will impact on civil liberties and privacy. I mean, a lot of drivers that have written to me and spoken to me are horrified of the idea that there's a government agency will be monitoring and charging people based on some unit in their car. What have you got to say about that, and what insurances can you give to London's motorists that that kind of system won't be put in place?
It absolutely won't. There is no question, because we would be breaching legal constraints if we did. And actually, I would use the parallel, if I may, with registered Oyster cards on the public transport network, because actually you could be potentially in the same situation, in that you know, if somebody registers an Oyster card with us, in theory, you could argue that you can track where people's journeys are and what they're doing all the time. We don't do that. So there is a very clear wall in the process. That's a statutory wall that we have in place with our Oyster card system, and I would envisage exactly a parallel arrangement being in place for any such scheme with motorists going forward. So there's no question that's never our intention, and we would make absolutely sure it wasn't happening.
Okay, thank you. But that might not be the scheme that's put in place,
sure,
because we don't actually know the content of the future consultation anyway. Okay,
quite.
Right, thank you. But I'll move on to the main thing I was going to ask you about now, which is the budget and the savings that TfL has to make. And there's significant financial pressure on TfL, and you have plans to make £4 billion of savings and efficiencies over the next 5 years. How are you going to make those savings?
So our business plan is affordable, it is ambitious, it sets out exactly how we will drive efficiency through the biggest ever overhaul of our organisation since we were created, delivering savings of £4 billion, as you say, over the plan. And also we'll take fundamentally a different approach to raising other income with ambitious plans, for example, for the use of our land and retail estate. Members, I'm sure, will have noticed that as recently as this morning, we've announced a further development at Black Horse Road of 350 houses by 2022. The fourth such scheme now that the Mayor has announced with us, 50% of those homes will be affordable at Black Horse Road. It's yet another opportunity for both an income stream for TfL, but also to deliver much needed housing in and around London. Obviously, our business plan also allows us to continue with our major investment programme, Bakerloo Line extension, Northern Line, further upgrade overground lines, and continuing to work on Crossrail 2, as well as East London River Crossing, Silvertown Tunnel, pedestrian cycle bridge, I hope, between Rotherhithe and Canary Wharf, investing, as you know, in the transformation of areas such as Old Street, Vauxhall, Waterloo, Stratford and Oxford Street, very importantly, and the £2.5 billion to get more people, as I've said, cycling and walking to improve public safety and air quality also. In terms of reducing costs, I'm pleased to say actually we're already making good progress. So if you look at our cost profile for this year, we've seen a quarter-on-quarter drop in actual costs against our budget. That's the first time that's happened in the history of TfL, but under the new CFO, Ian Nunn, and myself, and the direction that we've given the organisation and the Mayor's leadership, we're absolutely following that through with the root and branch review, which has actually identified £4 billion worth of savings already. But just to give you a sense of where we've got to this year, by the end of quarter 3 of this financial year, we were over 138 million better against budget cumulatively for the year than where we might have been if we'd met budget. So that's a really significant enhancement. But just to give you a little bit more detail, David, if I may. So £2 billion from putting in place a new operating model, a different way of running the place, reducing management layers, merging currently separate functions. 49 senior managers have already left, saving £40 million over the next 5 years. We've saved already 70 million on IT projects, with more savings to follow. We're saving about £2 million every week, having reduced our non-permanent labour by almost 1,000 since December 2015. We're negotiating and bringing together the management of commercial contracts more. That will give us about another 2 billion. That's through savings of, for example, 80 million a year over the next 5 years by improving tube maintenance and looking at how we carry out that activity. More affordable processes, material and technology. For example, with our escalators, handrails and steps costing less while ensuring we keep the reliability of the assets in place. Further value for money from old contracts with consolidation, for example, of our head office and facilities management contracts, reducing our head office accommodation portfolio generally, and the cost of basic areas, but very important areas such as office cleaning and catering. So we have a series of work streams across the organisation. Senior managers in my team held accountable for delivery of those work streams. And I'm committed to ensure that we deliver a credible savings programme that keeps the focus on delivering a reliable, safe service, keeps the focus on delivering a capital programme going forward. But I am very confident. Ian Nunn and I just carried out our major review into the draft budget for next year, and I'm very confident that senior members in my team and their teams get the message loud and clear and have credible action plans to continue the delivery trajectory we're already seeing.
Okay, thank you. It's a very full answer, and you've clearly thought a lot about it as an organisation. But are there any risks to staff, frontline staff perhaps, and services from the efficiency savings that you're making? And have you identified them?
Well, I think it's worth saying that some 80% of the spend of TfL is actually on with maintenance and delivering a reliable, safe service, keeps the focus on delivering a capital programme going forward. But I am very confident. Ian Nunn and I just carried out our major review into the draft budget for next year, and I'm very confident that senior members in my team and their teams get the message loud and clear and have credible action plans to continue the delivery trajectory we're already seeing.
Okay, thank you. It's a very full answer, and you've clearly thought a lot about it as an organisation. But are there any risks to staff, frontline staff perhaps, and services from the efficiency savings that you're making? And have you identified them?
Well, I think it's worth saying that some 80% of the spend of TfL is actually on with external organisations. So it's based on our major contracts, obviously our major capital programmes in particular. So really, you're talking 20% of our cost base is actually around how we staff the organisation. And if you then take away from that the areas of savings that we need to work on within our consolidation of central functions, so for example, engineering, we've already committed to have engineering in one place across TfL. We've already committed to having capital programmes managed in one place within the organisation. So actually, my aim is to ensure that the frontline delivery of core services is absolutely preserved. And indeed, you will have seen recently that we're enhancing some of the, based on the increased numbers of people using the underground, and then the review that we've carried out on the staffing levels on the tube, that we've actually reviewed some of the numbers there. Yeah, I'm sure we will. But so that's that's one example. We're actually preserving, and indeed, where appropriate, enhancing frontline delivery is still a sustainable argument as part of this. So, a lot of work to do. I don't want to underplay the level of effort and energy that's required here, but I'm really encouraged, again, under the leadership of the Mayor and the new board, that we have a pretty rigorous set of plans in place to deliver what we need to.
Great. You mentioned there, there's got to be 800 million average a year over the next 5 years of efficiency savings. And TfL published a broad breakdown of the money to be saved in the next fiscal year, highlighting 227.6 million pounds in a report, but cited commercial reasons as why you couldn't give any further details for the other majority of that 800 million. What were the commercial reasons, or why were there commercial reasons to prevent disclosing further details of the plan?
Well, clearly we have some contracts that are in place already with big suppliers to deliver, for example, the modernisation of the District Circle Metropolitan lines, to buy new trains, to procure new signalling, to do some particular road schemes that are in place, to proceed with the powers moving forward on the on the Silvertown Crossing and other big schemes. And actually, it is very important that you are able to preserve your negotiation position by not up front putting all those numbers out in the public domain. Because if you did so, of course, that becomes perfectly logically, it's not saying that our contractors or partners are evil in any way, but they would then perfectly logically look at that as a base number by which they could, or ceiling number by which they could seek to get to. Of course, I would like to save even more money from some of the areas in our relationships with our contractors and demonstrate even greater value for money. So I think we have to, it genuinely isn't trying to hide anything, it just is, I've looked at this in quite a lot of detail because I'm sure you will notice, and many Assembly members who've been around perhaps for several years would, I hope, acknowledge that the transparency of the organisation has enhanced much more. We've actually got a set of financial data that's now understandable to ordinary people, whereas frankly sometimes it wasn't in the past. All of that is about increased transparency. On this subject, though, I am persuaded, I have asked the question myself, that we just have to be circumspect in what we do have out there.
So it's about negotiating.
It is, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Final question for me on this subject. You did mention 49 managers have been released, so that you're making progress with the management restructure in TfL. When do you think that process will be completed?
Well, this is subject to the appropriate level of consultation that you need to do with trade union representatives and others, because even that applies at fairly senior levels within the organisation. So I wouldn't want to give a categoric date, because that would assume that I'm not going to be properly taking cognizance of consultation, and I'm absolutely determined that we do take genuine issues that are raised in the consultation process and we respond properly to them. So clearly, depending on what issues might be raised, the nature of the interactive dialogue that we've got with colleagues will determine the actual outcome. So I can't give you the categoric date, but I am confident. The reason I'm confident about the numbers being able to deliver it is by looking at the evidence of what we've managed to do so far. So I think you would quite rightly be saying to me, hang on, you haven't even started yet, if we hadn't seen progress. But as I say, the numbers we've seen, the cumulative £138 million worth of savings below budget we've delivered so far this year is, we have never, quarter on quarter, in the 17-year history of TfL, ever reduced our cost on a quarter-by-quarter basis, and we've done it every single quarter of this financial year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.